Have you ever just felt completely swamped by all the information hitting you every day?
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
News, studies, social media.
Exactly. It's a flood. And sometimes you just have to wonder, okay, but how did they get that info? How do we really know what's going on in society?
Hmm. Beyond just anecdotes.
Right. Well, today, that's exactly what we're diving into. We talked before about the big theories, positivism, interpretivism.
Yeah, the philosophical debates.
Today, we're getting practical. We're going to unpack the actual toolkit sociologists use to study us, our behavior, our societies.
And honestly, understanding these tools isn't just for academics. It's essential for anyone trying to make sense of the world.
How so?
Because knowing how information is gathered helps you judge its quality, right? It helps you really grasp what's shaping things and spot reliable insights. Think of it as like a shortcut to being a sharper observer.
Okay, I like that. A shortcut to critical thinking. So let's unpack this toolkit then. Where do we start? If sociologists want the big picture, the patterns, the numbers.
Ah, right. Then they're reaching for quantitative methods.
Quantitative, so numbers.
Exactly. It's all about producing numerical statistical data, measuring things, looking for patterns, correlations,
Stuff you can count.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And these are the go-to methods for positivists, remember. Those who think society can be studied scientifically, looking for objective facts, almost like laws of behavior.
Okay, so first tool in that quantitative box, I'm guessing, surveys?
You got it. Questionnaires and social surveys, we've all filled them out.
Too many times, probably. So how do they work for sociology?
Well, their strength is scale. You could distribute them to hundreds, even thousands of people.
Wow, okay.
And crucially, they tend to use closed-ended questions. Multiple choice, rating scales, yes, no.
Ah, so the answers are already set.
Exactly. Which makes the data super easy to turn into numbers and then analyze statistically. Lets you say, okay, this percentage thinks this across a huge group.
Gives you that bird's eye view you mentioned.
Precisely. A broad snapshot.
Okay, but what about talking to people directly, but still keeping it standardized?
Right. That brings us to structured interviews.
How are they different from just a chat?
Well, they are face-to-face or maybe over the phone, but they're basically questionnaires read aloud.
Oh, okay.
The interviewer has an identical list of questions, and they ask them in the exact same order to every single person. No deviation.
That sounds rigid. Why do that?
But here's where it gets really interesting. That rigidity is key for reliability,
Reliability.
meaning you or another researcher could repeat the study and get pretty much the same results. That standardization is what makes the findings dependable, consistent.
I see. So it's not just a one-off finding.
Exactly. Reliability is how we build up knowledge we can trust, piece by piece. It's fundamental. Without it, every study is just, well, an island. You can't build bridges between findings.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so surveys, structured interviews.
Mm-hmm.
What else is in the quantitative toolkit? I remember you mentioned official statistics.
Yes. This is a big one. And it's slightly different because it's secondary data.
Secondary, meaning the sociologists didn't collect it themselves.
Correct. This is data collected by government agencies or other official bodies for their own reasons. Things like census data, crime rates, birth statistics, marriage figures.
Stuff that's already out there.
Exactly. It's a huge ready-made resource. What's fascinating here is the sheer volume and often the accessibility. It gives you that massive overview of societal trends over time that would be, frankly, impossible for one researcher to gather alone.
A real goldmine for seeing the big picture shifts.
Definitely. Though you always need to be careful and think about why that data was collected in the first place. Potential biases,
Right, good point. Okay, so that covers the numbers side, the what and how much. But what about digging deeper? Understanding the why behind it all, the human experience.
Now you're talking about qualitative methods.
Qualitative, so quality over quantity.
In a way, yes. It's
Yeah.
about rich, descriptive data. Understanding the meaning people attach to their actions, their beliefs, their interactions. This is the world of the interpretivist.
Getting inside people's heads, sort of.
More like understanding their perspectives from the inside out, getting the nuances, the context, the stories. It's about depth.
Okay.
Okay.
So how do you get that kind of depth? What's the qualitative equivalent of a survey?
Well, one key tool is the unstructured interview.
Unstructured. So the opposite of the structured one.
Exactly. Think of it less like reading a script and more like a guided conversation.
Okay.
The researcher has topics, themes they want to cover, but they're flexible. They can ask follow-up questions, explore interesting tangents, really let the conversation flow based on what the participant says.
So what does this all mean for the data?
It means you get much richer, deeper insights into someone's perspective. You uncover things you might never have thought to ask about in a fixed questionnaire.
Unexpected discoveries.
Precisely. It's that flexibility that unlocks the really nuanced understanding. You find out why someone feels a certain way, in their own words.
That sounds powerful. What about getting even closer to the action? I've heard of researchers actually joining the groups they study.
Ah, yes, that's participant observation.
So the researcher becomes one of them.
Essentially, yes. They immerse themselves in the group or community, taking part in their daily lives, their activities. The goal is to get a truly authentic insider's view.
Like that study you mentioned, James Patrick living with the Glasgow Gang.
That's a classic, albeit controversial, example. You aim to understand their world from their perspective, seeing the unspoken rules, the social dynamics firsthand.
Wow, that gives incredible insight, I bet. But doesn't the researcher being there change things? Or risk losing objectivity?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a huge challenge.
I can imagine.
The depth of understanding you gain is often unparalleled. You see things you'd never get from an interview. But yes, the researcher's presence does have an effect, the observer effect. And maintaining objectivity when you're so immersed is tough.
So how do they handle that?
Good researchers are very aware of it. They build trust carefully. They're often transparent about their role, and they keep detailed field notes where they constantly reflect on their own position and potential biases. It's a trade-off, really. Amazing depth, but real methodological complexities.
Okay, so what if joining in isn't practical? Or maybe too risky?
Then you might use non-participant observation.
Watching from the sidelines.
Basically, yes. The researcher observes the group or situation from a distance without taking part in the activities.
When would that be better?
Maybe in very public settings like observing crowd behavior, or if participation might significantly alter the behavior you want to study. Or sometimes it's just not possible to join in. It helps minimize that observer effect.
Right, makes sense. Okay, one more qualitative method. Case studies. What are they about?
A case study is an incredibly in-depth look at a single instance. Could be one school, one community, one family, one event.
Really zooming in.
Exactly. You use multiple methods, interviews, observation, documents to build a really rich, holistic picture of that specific case.
Sounds detailed.
Yeah.
But if you only study one school, how much does that tell you about schools in general? Isn't that a problem?
That's the main challenge, yes. Generalizability. What you learn in intense detail about one case might not apply directly to others.
So what's the value then?
Well, it raises that important question about trade-offs again. You sacrifice breadth for incredible depth. Case studies are fantastic for understanding complexity, for seeing how different factors interact in a real-world setting, or for generating new ideas and theories that you could then test more widely.
I see. So it's not about saying all schools are like this, but here's how things work in this specific context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And often, quantitative and qualitative approaches are used together, right? To get both the big picture and the deep understanding. They complement each other.
That makes total sense. Okay, so we have all these methods, quantitative, qualitative, but underpinning all of them, there's something absolutely crucial, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The bedrock. Ethics.
Right. Regardless of the method, research has to be ethical. Why is this so non-negotiable?
Because we're dealing with people. Ethics aren't just rules. They're our moral compass. They ensure we protect the well-being, the rights, the dignity of the people participating in our research.
Protecting the participants.
Above all else, research involves a power dynamic, and ethics ensures that power isn't abused. Without strong ethics, sociology could easily cause harm.
Okay, so what are the key ethical pillars researchers have to build on?
Well, number one is informed consent.
Meaning people have to know what they're signing up for.
Precisely. They need to be fully informed about the research, what it's for, what they'll have to do, any potential risks or benefits before they agree. And, crucially, that agreement must be voluntary. No pressure, no coercion.
Giving people the power to choose.
Exactly. It's about autonomy and transparency, building trust from the outset.
And speaking of trust, once someone agrees, how is their privacy protected?
That brings us to confidentiality and anonymity. They're related but slightly different.
Okay.
Confidentiality means the researcher knows who the participant is, but promises to keep their information private, not linking names to data in reports. Anonymity means even the researcher doesn't know the participant's identity, like in an anonymous online survey.
Ah, I see. Either way, their identity is protected.
Yes. Researchers have a duty to ensure participants can't be identified in the final report, keeping personal details secure. This is vital. People need to trust that what they share won't come back to harm them. It encourages honesty.
Makes sense. What about protecting people from negative experiences during the research itself?
Absolutely critical. That's protection from harm.
Physical harm seems obvious, but
Right. But it also includes psychological or emotional harm. Researchers must actively anticipate and minimize any potential risks, especially if you're studying sensitive topics, trauma, abuse, mental health. You have to be incredibly careful not to distress participants.
so the researcher has a real responsibility there.
A profound one. The principle is do no harm. If there's a risk, you need clear steps to mitigate it, maybe provide support resources, or even decide the research isn't ethically justifiable.
Wow. Okay, that leaves one tricky area, deception. Should researchers ever mislead participants? It seems to contradict informed consent.
You've hit on a really thorny issue,
Mm.
and generally the answer is no, avoid deception.
What?
But there are rare situations, mainly in things like covert observations.
Like the researcher pretending not to be a researcher.
Exactly. Where revealing your true purpose would completely change the behavior you're trying to study, making the research impossible or the data meaningless.
So sometimes it might be seen as necessary.
It's highly controversial.
Yeah.
What's fascinating and ethically complex is that balance. How do you weigh getting authentic data against the principle of honesty?
That sounds like a tough judgment call.
It absolutely is. If deception is even considered, it needs incredibly strong justification, usually approval from an ethics committee, and almost always involve debriefing participants afterwards, explaining the true nature of the study and why deception was used. It's a constant ethical evaluation. Is the knowledge gained so important it outweighs the ethical cost? And was there truly no other way?
What a landscape.
Okay.
Okay, so we've journeyed from these big picture quantitative tools like surveys and stats to the deep dives of qualitative methods like interviews and observation,
The meanings and experiences.
and seen how all of it has to stand on that firm ground of ethical considerations.
Absolutely. Consent, confidentiality, avoiding harm.
Understanding these methods, these tools, and these ethical rules really does change how you see the information around you, doesn't it? It gives you the power to ask better questions.
It really does. So maybe final thought for everyone listening. Next time you come across some social research, a news headline, a study finding, even just an observation about how people are behaving, take a second. Ask yourself, how might they have gathered this information? What methods could have been behind it? Quantitative, qualitative, both.
And the ethics.
And definitely what ethical questions would have been front and center in getting that understanding.
Yeah.
Thinking like that, it's a powerful lens for navigating our complex social world.